Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of SoTellUs Time. Today I'm so excited because we're going to be talking about habits, forming the right kind of habits that help you have success. In fact, we're going to go over some of the most successful people and the habits that they have, the different habits that they have formed in their lives to make them be very successful. Unfortunately for you guys today, it's just me. Troy is actually at an event in Nashville, so we will forgive him for having to step out on us on our weekly podcast. That's okay, Troy. We do miss you, and we will see you next time. So let's dive right in. Habits. Now, I got an email a few weeks back from a good family friend, Joe Polish. He's amazing. He has built from being, I've talked about him before in other podcasts, where he was from his own words, like a druggy carpet cleaner bum to doing multiple millions and building a super successful coaching program and coaching group, surrounding himself with amazing people and helping other people grow and have success as well. He's got the Genius Network. He's got Piranha Marketing. He has helped so many people. I mean, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people over the last 20 years build their businesses. He is awesome. And so Joe sent this email out, and it was interesting because it was good habits or bad habits. And how it starts out is that he says, I really don't believe there is a such thing as good habits or bad habits. In fact, what it said is, if you wake up every day and yell at your spouse, kick the dog, smoke 5 cigarettes, guzzle 2 cups of coffee, and eat an Egg McMuffin, you don't have a bad habit. You simply developed a habit of waking up, yelling at your spouse, drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, and eating crappy food. It boils down to certain actions done in a certain way produce certain results. Would you agree with that? I do. Absolutely. So I learned a hard way about habits and having good habits, bad habits, or just having habits that result in a certain, outcome a few years back. This was probably 10 years ago. We had multiple companies. They were doing really well. And one of our companies brought on a couple really big clients, and we started to really crush it. And it was awesome. I mean, the money was flowing. We had employees taking care of everything. It was really good. And it was really hands off, honestly, for me. And so being a young guy at only 25 at the time, I thought, hey, this is what it's all about. This is what I've been working for, and I'm going to live the life. I'm going to live the dream life. And so I started, doing what I wanted to do every day. And I kind of stopped going to the office, and I was on the golf course 5 days a week. I was just checking in with my staff, and I was living it up. It was awesome. And it went on for about a year and a half that way. And it was really great. But at that 1.5 year mark, what happened is, what I learned was having big clients is awesome. They pay you a lot of money. But when they decide that they're going to go and do something else, or you're not the focus anymore, or when you're working with like publicly traded companies and that division shuts down and their focus changes direction, and they walk away and that big fat check stops coming in, it hurts. It hurts. And I had created this habit during this time of great success of, enjoying life and golfing and seeing movies and going to the lake and doing all these awesome things on a daily basis, but not focusing on my company. And so what that did for me was it hurt me in the end. After 1.5 years, I had not really been focusing on my companies. I had not been growing the other company either. No one was in putting on new customers. So what was the result? The other company had slowly, lost customers, just slowly, nothing big or dramatic. But no one was in there putting new customers in the top of the barrel so that it was replacing any customers coming out the bottom or, growing more. Everybody's going to have attrition. Everybody's going to lose customers over a period of time. You have a life cycle of a customer. So you always have to be putting customers in the top to make sure that you're, negating the ones falling out the bottom. Well, nobody was doing that with the other company. And then with the company that had a couple big clients, well, when one walks away and you lose hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars a year, you get hurt. It hurts. And so what I should have been doing, I had to go back and I had to work 10 times harder to get everything up and running and going again and start building the other company and looking for new clients and all this stuff. What I should have been doing during that time of prosperity is I should have been doubling down. I should have formed a habit of getting in the office every day, building more relationships, bringing in new customers, continuing to grow that. And you know what? I could have brought on 3, 4, 5 more very large customers in that time period. And instead, I had gotten in this habit of like, yeah, I did it. I'm so excited, and golfing and living this awesome life. And it was cool. It was great. But if hindsight's 2020, if I would have known that that was only going to last about a year and a half, I definitely would have, like I said, doubled down, and I should have continued to grow that company. And I did. It was fine. I mean, obviously, here we are 10 years later, and we're huge and have blown up. But that's because I had to come back in, and it was a struggle. It was a struggle. I went from living this awesome life, tons of money flowing. My wife would go out and buy things. I never paid attention to what she was buying and spending, and she never paid attention to what I was buying and spending. I think I bought 8 motorcycles that year. I went through 3 different vehicles, jumped into a sports car, realized sports cars weren't for me, went back to a truck. It was an awesome year and a half, but it, in the end, ended up hurting me. I had to really dive in, like I said, and start building the company back up. And so that was a habit that I formed of play, instead of, and it was because I had worked all those years working really hard. And so when it really blew up and paid off, I wanted to enjoy it. But the thing was I wasn't thinking long term. I was forming habits for now. Give it to me now. And that's something we're going to talk about, because the most successful people in the world, they're not looking at right now. They're looking at down the road. That doesn't mean they don't enjoy right now, but it means that they are looking forward instead of at the immediate, okay? So I was just reading an article the other day, and it was an awesome article. This guy had interviewed 25 multimillionaires. And out of the majority of these multimillionaires, there was basically 3 different categories. But the most successful category of becoming a multimillionaire, how did they become multimillionaires, was the category where they had taken the saving and investing route. Now, interesting enough, this category was also the easiest path to making multiple millions of dollars. So that's what he had found out of this study, that this was also the path that made the most multimillionaires, and it was the easiest way to make multiple millions. So it was saving and investing. Now, what they did with that is they lived very frugal, and they lived below their means. So we talk about living within our means, not overspending, being smart with our money, don't get a mortgage that's too big, don't get a car payment that's too big, all of these things. Don't buy toys if you can't afford to have them. I had somebody say to me when I was quite young, never finance a toy. If you can't afford to pay cash for it, then you can't afford the toy. And that really sunk in. And so that's how I've always lived my life as well, is if I can't afford it, if I can't pay cash for it, and I try to live that way with a lot of the things that I do. Now there's, huge purchases, obviously, that you probably are not always going to be able to just pay cash for, but that's okay. But things, like toys, trailers, pools, all sorts of fun things like that, really a golden rule, and the best rule out there, is that if you can't pay cash for it, you can't really afford it. So just save your money. Be patient. So they lived actually under their means. They were smart with their money. They put money into savings. They built it up, and then they were able to invest. And with those investments, they were able to build more wealth. They also started pretty young. So they were in their 20s when they started doing this. Now, the result of this was that the average person, and this is what's amazing. So the average person made $166,000 that had made multiple millions going down this path. So $166,000. It's great money, but it's not anything crazy. It's not like, building up these goals and building these companies, and, you build these companies and you think, man, I want to make millions of dollars, But here, these people, they were making on average. Now, not all these people owned their own business. Some of these people just worked for other people. And they made on average $166,000. And by the mid 30s, by their mid 30s, they were worth $3.8 million, which is pretty incredible. So that kind of puts things into perspective. Now, it's interesting. I was reading another article the other day that was talking about like the wealthiest city in America. And it's where like all these huge, Apple and Microsoft, all these big CEOs and presidents of these multi-billion-dollar companies, they all have homes in this city. And the interesting thing about it is that the city was actually going broke because nobody would spend their money in that city. And most of these people, this was their, 22nd home. And so they weren't always there. And so like all these grocery stores and everything were shutting down. But the really interesting thing to me was the average household income there was $180,000. Now, that's a lot of money. Yeah, that's a lot of money. But again, that's not people making millions and millions of dollars a year. Under $200,000 a year is what the average income was for that. Now think about that. But the average home price there was $5 million. So that's incredible. But also that tells me that on average, a lot of these people were probably living outside of their means. A lot of these people in that city were living outside of their means. If you are making $180,000 a year, in my opinion, you don't have any business being in a $5 million home or a $3 million home. I think you should be living better and more within your means, because if something happens and changes, it doesn't take much for you to lose everything. So very interesting. So let's recap on that. The average person in that study was making $166,000 a year. They lived frugal. They lived under their means. They saved and they invested. And by the age, they started in their 20s, and by the age 35, they were worth $3.8 million. So for all my younger listeners, this is something to take into consideration. Everybody's always looking at like, man, I want to buy this, and I want to buy this, and I want to do this. And it's like, I want more stuff. But stuff doesn't mean wealth. Just because you have all this stuff. In fact, when I was a kid, I used to think that. I was like, oh man, look at this guy. He's got a boat, and he's got an RV, and he's got an Escalade, and this is amazing, and he's so rich. But as I grew older, I realized a lot of these people were just living outside their means. They were financing everything to the hilt. They were maxing out credit cards. They weren't doing it in the right way. They weren't really truly building wealth. So think about it. Do you want these things? Like, let's just say you could have these things by 28, or by 35, you could be worth $3.8 million and really truly have some wealth behind you. Which one is better? Well, I can tell you, at being at 35, it's better to have the $3.8 million. That's the better route to go. Yes, it's cool to, have a boat and have an RV and have this big house and have all these great things and have all the toys. But if something changes, it can change like that. If something changes with your income, with your job, whatever it is, I have seen so many people lose everything. I have a family friend that was worth $20 million, but it wasn't liquid. It was in assets. And one thing changed. He was always financing the next investment with the previous investments. So he never actually owned any of it. And the problem is when one thing changed for him, he lost all of it. Lost all that money. So think about it. If you can just be patient, you can live an amazing life, because 35 is young. I'm young. I mean, I feel like I'm young. Some of my younger listeners are going, oh my gosh, you're so old, dude. But some of my older listeners are going, oh my gosh, you're only 35. Like, you can live an amazing life, and you want to be building for the future and for true wealth. Now, let's talk about habits. Let's talk about the habits of wealthy people. The 10 biggest habits of wealthy people. The first being wake up early. Now, some of you said, yeah, I do that. Some of you went, oh my gosh, no, I'm so tired all the time. But you know what? On average, the wealthiest people on earth, they wake up early every single day. And if you talk to people, entrepreneurs especially, it's amazing how much work you get done in the morning, before everybody's bothering you, before you get into that office and all your employees are going, I need you. Hey, what about this? So getting up early, that is bar none. It's by far one of the most important things. Get up early. You will accomplish so much before 9 a.m. in the morning that you'll go, holy cow, I got more done by 9 a.m. than I did the rest of the day. It's a fact. Getting up early, it's good for you. Now, the next thing is when you do first get up, don't check your email. This is a list of what the wealthiest people on earth do and say. Don't check your email first. Why? Well, where's that going to take your mind? That's going to take your mind into work. That's going to take your mind right into, oh man, the problems of the day, or, I got to deal with this and I got to take care of this. And oh my gosh, this client just emailed me this. And it's going to take your focus away, and you're not going to be able to do a morning routine that's going to help you be successful and be the best you. You're going to get sucked right into work, and you're going to dive right into that. And that's not how you're going to be the best you, because honestly, and this is coming up, you have to be healthy personally in order to have a successful business. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of your company. You're going to burn yourself out. And that goes right into number 3, which is eating healthy. All of them, they talk about eating healthy. Now, I'm not saying, okay, yeah, you can never go and eat out or do anything like that. I mean, gosh, I love to eat out. Food is my passion, and you will see that throughout all of my social media. I love to, smoke briskets and pork butts and all of these things, and I love to cook and sous vide and steak and chicken, and it's great. I love food. But you have to moderate that, right? And you have to be healthy, because if you're not healthy, in fact, I'll give you an example. One of the it was $160 million a year company that we consulted for. Troy and I consulted for this company, and they went through 3 CEOs. All had heart attacks, all under 50. Isn't that insane? Why is that? They weren't being healthy. It didn't just come down to their eating habits, but it also came down to number 4, which is exercise regularly. And then it came down to number 1, which is wake up early, which also means you have to do what? Go to bed at a decent time. Don't stay up super late and then wake up super early. You're not going to have a tired mind is not a healthy mind. And so you've got to eat healthy and you've got to exercise regularly. You don't want to work so hard that you find yourself in your 40s having a heart attack. That would be terrible. And so these guys had worked so hard, and they had become, CEOs of this amazing company that was doing tons of money, and they were making tons of money, but they didn't even get to enjoy it. And guess what? They were a CEO of a publicly traded company, so it wasn't even theirs. Their families didn't, nothing rolled down to their families when they had these heart attacks and died. So slow down. Basically, it's like what they're saying here is slow down and take care of yourself. Because if you can't take care of yourself, like I said before, you can't take care of your company. So, and then that means your company can't in return take care of you. Now, number 5, have a primary goal. Okay, we're setting habits here. Healthy habits, good habits. Even though Joe said he doesn't believe in good or bad habits, there still are habits, I think, that are better than others because they give you better results, obviously. Right? I think Joe agrees with that as well. So, primary goal, set a goal. You need to have a goal and write it out. You need to write your goals down, which is also number 6. So you're going to take these goals that you have, you're going to write them down so you can see them every single day. Put them on a whiteboard in front of you. Put them as your screensaver on your computer. But you need to have goals, which is quarterly goals, yearly goals, and then go out 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Where do you want to see yourself over these periods of time? If you don't have a vision for it, how are you ever going to get there? You can't just say, oh, and this is a big thing when we come in and we consult for clients. They say, well, I'm going to do this much, or I'm going to add this many clients. And it's like, great, let's work that backwards. So you want to add 100,000 new clients. Okay. So how many is that per month? Take that over a 12-month period. How many is that per month? Break that down. Okay, great. How many, what's your branches that are going to take you? How do you currently get customers? How many customers are you currently putting on? Well, I'm putting on 300 a month. Well, you want to grow to 100,000? That's crazy, right? You want to grow to 100,000 customers, you're putting 300 on a month. You're not going to get there. It's going to take years upon years upon years. So you have to have these goals and you have to have ways to get to these goals, but you're never going to figure out the ways to get to those goals until you actually put the goals down. You write them down and then you work backwards to see how can you accomplish those goals and are they even feasible, right? Now, the next one is keeping a daily list. And I actually learned this one from my wife, who learned it from her father, but also the richest people in the world say they keep a daily list. They keep a list of what they're going to accomplish that day. A lot of times they write it down as they're getting into bed. They're writing down their list for the next day of what they want to accomplish. And then they get up in the morning and now they have a focus for the day. And so guess what? Having a daily list will work into having your goals that you've got set up, whether that's a monthly goal, a annual goal, or 3 years, 5 years, whatever that is. Having those daily lists will help you accomplish those goals as well. Number 8, believe that time is money. And I had to learn this one personally because we got into this whole consulting gig, not because we started a consulting company, but because our clients needed it. So we found ourselves going into companies all the time, our current clients, and we were helping them set up systems and processes and goals and working it backwards and how are you going to get there and achieving these goals, exceeding these goals. Well, guess what? My time is very valuable. And I wasn't charging people for my time. I was going in and doing all this consulting for free because they were a client of mine and paying me for other services. But my time, I had to realize I was spending so much time working with these customers that I was not being able to go out and really maximize the growth of my company. So I had to start the consulting company and I had to start charging people for the consulting, which is fine. Absolutely. I'm helping these people grow their business and it's totally worth what they're paying me. And they agree with me. And it was amazing. It was another stream of revenue. So realize your time is worth money. So if you're going to be giving someone your time, you need to equate that to dollars. Now, number 9, this one is huge. Network with successful people. Be around the people you want to be like. If you are around a bunch of bums and losers and people who don't do anything all day long, you're going to be what? A bum and a loser and somebody that doesn't do anything because you're going to get sucked down to their level. You want to be stepping it up. You want to be around people who are having success, who have hit the goals, who have built the companies, who know more than what you know, because then they'll actually naturally just guide you. Success surrounds itself with success. Money makes money. So surround yourself with people. Now, how can you do that? You can get into networking groups. You can join groups like Genius Network, where there are, stipulations. There's many groups out there where it's like your company has to do $1 million or more a year in order to even join the group. And it's probably going to cost you money, but that's okay. What are you afraid of? If you get around like-minded people that are building companies, and especially ones who have already done it, you are going to find yourself more successful. You're going to be thinking on a higher level. You're going to be thinking and you're going to be thinking through these processes and these systems, and these people that you're around will have already done it. So that's super valuable because they're going to be able to give you pointers and tips. And a lot of times, like when you join Genius Network and some of these other groups, they're going to sit around at one point and they're going to have every person in that group stand up and tell about their business, tell about their successes and their struggles. Where do they need help? And then that group is going to help you. They're going to give suggestions. They're going to say, hey, I use this process. I use this system. I use this program. I've been there too. Being around these people will absolutely help you succeed and grow. And then number 10, know when to stop working. Okay, this is a big one that entrepreneurs struggle with every single day. Knowing when to stop working. Being busy doesn't mean you're being successful. Being at the office doesn't mean that you're being successful. Okay, what that means is if you don't have something to do that's like pertinent to making money, growing the business, getting new clients, and you're just taking time away from your family, you are losing. You're losing out on the joys of being an entrepreneur. The great thing about it is you can make your schedule. And a lot of times, yes, it's that old saying of like, I work 60 hours a week for myself, so I don't have to work 40 hours a week for somebody else. But that doesn't always have to be true to 100%, because if you would learn when to quit working, when there's really nothing to be done, don't just be at the office to be busy. That is a waste of time, and you are missing out on the opportunities of, going to your kids' activities, soccer games, football games, plays, spending time with your wife, going on vacations, whatever that is. Make sure that if you're at the office and you're working, that you're actually being productive, because busy is not productive. Okay, that's number 10. So those are the top 10. Get in the habit. This is final thoughts. Get in the habit of doing things that make you uncomfortable. You need to get yourself out of your comfort zone. You need to be stretching and pushing and growing. That is very important. Every single day, if you can do something, like public speaking is a scary thing, walking into a business to talk to someone about becoming a new client. We're always afraid of rejection. We have this big fear of being rejected, or told no, or feeling like maybe we're not important, or our product or service isn't important. Why are we afraid of this? What's the worst thing that can happen if you go walk into a business and you're telling them about your company and you would like to help them? The worst thing is they can say, no, thank you. I don't need your services. Okay, great. But the best case scenario is they become a new customer. Maybe public speaking. That was something that I was personally terrified of. Even though I grew up in the speaking industry with seeing my dad on stages with some of the greatest speakers in the world, I still was terrified of it. I did not want to public speak, but it was necessary, and it helped my business grow exponentially. I was able to get to many, many people. Instead of having to walk into one door and sell somebody, I was able to get into, in front of thousands of people. I mean, it started small. It started with a group of 50, and then 150, and then 350, and then all the way up to 5,500 people. But it was how I was able to grow my business. And Troy travels and speaks. He's at an event right now. Ron traveled and spoke when he was still with the company. It's a great way to grow your business, but it is definitely something that scares people. So that was something I had to get over and learn. And you know what? It blew my business up. It was awesome. So being comfortable, unfortunately, we're always trying to be comfortable as a society. And in fact, we're doing a disservice to our children, because we're always making them comfortable. We're always trying to give them what we didn't have, or they don't even have to be in awkward situations anymore because they have a cell phone. So it's like, oh man, something's awkward. I'm going to, get on my cell phone right now. And that's the thing, is being uncomfortable is good. Being uncomfortable is when we grow and when we learn. And definitely in business, being uncomfortable is awesome. You are growing and learning and getting better when you allow yourself to be uncomfortable. I was just reading a thing the other day. I read a lot. I love articles. I love to learn new things. I love to listen to podcasts and books. I love Audible. It's a great system for listening to different books. And they were talking about how we never make ourselves uncomfortable anymore. Because I'm doing this whole cold plunge thing, right? And it's for my back. I had the surgery in my leg and the nerve damage, and to, shrink the inflammation. So I'm doing this cold plunge, and I was researching the heck out of it. And it was talking about how people never allow themselves to be uncomfortable. If we're cold, we turn on the heater. If we're hot, we turn on the AC. We remote start our vehicles before we even have to walk outside so that it's cooled down by the time that we get there. We never allow our bodies to naturally do what they were supposed to do and meant to do. And so by getting outside of this comfort zone, for me, I can physically see it. I can physically see the growth. So this is in our personal lives, our health, and in our business. Getting outside, when I jump into that cold water, it's reinvigorating my body. It's shrinking that inflammation. It's teaching my body to deal with uncomfortable situations. We need to do that with our business as well, because we need to be able to adapt, grow, and change directions. Business doesn't always stay the same. And if it does, eventually it's going to die off. So make sure you guys are doing things that get outside of your comfort zone. Go to a meeting and meet people. Go to a B&I meeting. Meet people in your local area. Start to network. Join a group that is going to be people, like-minded people, people who have had more success than you. These are the things that are going to help you guys grow and form amazing habits that give you great results in the end. All right, guys. Well, I hope that gets your mind thinking in a different way. Today was kind of a short one. I hope it was a fun one. I just want to have you guys start seeing things from a different perspective. That is one great thing about our podcast is we're going to be talking about multiple categories where we can help you guys grow, whether that's personally or in business. It all ties together. We are people. We are humans. It all works together in business and in life and in marriage and in family. It all comes together to make success or make everything fall apart. And I have definitely seen both sides. I've seen people's marriages and lives fall apart because of business and money, and I've seen people come closer together and just get the life of their dreams. So if you like this episode, please share it. We appreciate you guys listening. Troy will be back with us next week for another episode of SoTellUs time. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.